typhoid, and a disease called amoebiasis. Mr. Speaker, some of the victims, it's reported that when they went to some of the health facilities in Kisumu, and to be specific, there is a laboratory called Path Kenya Care. Mr. Speaker, it was found out that some of the students had suffered from cholera. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge the country, the government, and Kenyans at large to treat this matter of mysterious diseases in schools with great urgency, great importance, because if you are not careful, Mr. Speaker, you might find this disease outside of schools. This disease might come into our environment, because the moment you close the schools, Mr. Speaker, you are letting these children to come outside to their community. Some of these students come from very far, Mr. Speaker, and you might find us as a country transporting disease all over the country. Mr. Speaker, I want to point out some few issues. Mr. Speaker, which the Ministry of Health, in conjunction with the Ministry of Education, and also the community at large, and Kenya and government, should put into consideration. Mr. Speaker, we have the issue of food, Mr. Speaker, which the students take in schools. It's very tricky and very hard to ascertain the food safety in our schools, Mr. Speaker. When I talk about food safety, I'm trying to mean, Mr. Speaker, the source of the food, how it is stored, transported to the school, and how it's kept, cooked, and served to the students. Mr. Speaker, many of the schools do not take into consideration measures of trying to ascertain that the food being brought to the schools is safe for consumption. And that's why we end up with contaminated food, and this contamination of food ends up in our children's stomachs and eventually causes health problems, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the second issue is about the way the structures are built in our schools, Mr. Speaker. If we don't put into consideration the way we plan our schools or institutions, Mr. Speaker, you might find even the sewerage systems mixing with the lines of clean water, Mr. Speaker. And the moment that happens, we also find a problem which arises to diseases such as cholera and typhoid, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, health is devolved, and therefore the Ministry of Health, in conjunction with the county government, they are supposed to put up measures to make sure that health of the students in institutions is adhered to, where we have, even if it's possible, we have small clinics properly placed in schools or institutions so that the county government is able to monitor the progress of the health issues in schools, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, so far we have 5 schools that have been reported to have been closed because of these problems, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, just to single out MUKUMU Girls High School, where even a teacher had to lose life because of negligence, maybe from the school management, Ministry of Health, or the students themselves. Mr. Speaker, our schools are overpopulated. Unless we control and manage the population of students in schools, Mr. Speaker, the structures, the land size, and the facilities used by the students will automatically diminish or be very small to take care of the students, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I know this problem is facing so many of my colleagues, including my brother, who is the MP for Shinyalu, Honorable Freddy Kana, where MUKUMU Girls High School is situated, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, even in Butere constituency where I come from, my own school, Butere Boys High School, was the second one to be closed because of outbreak of cholera disease, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I ask my colleagues to join in, debate this matter with great importance, and also, Mr. Speaker, outline issues and outline ways in which the government can and will protect our kids and students in schools, not excluding the teachers and the subordinates in our institutions, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I want, as I finish, to condole with the family of the victims who lost, students who lost their lives. I want to encourage them, and also the family of the teacher who lost her life. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity that you have given me, and also the opportunity which you allowed this adjournment motion to be given time to be heard, Mr. Speaker. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support the motion.
You move the motion.